Kind of stuck here. The cops won't bother me. My fork seal is leaking. Honda Shadow from 1985 is leaking, and this is the dust cap, and oftentimes you can reuse the dust cap, but this one's cracked. On the actual fork leg, you can see there's oil residue, and that's how you can tell that your fork seals are leaking. Just received my fork seals for the Honda Shadow. This is the dust caps you're gonna need. The thing you have to keep in mind that there is a up and a down. Usually if there's writing on the fork seal itself, that means that's the up part. And if there's no writing, that's the down part. You're gonna need to remove the entire front end. And it's just enough to kind of push up a bit. This is a pinch bolt, and you're just gonna take a wrench. And this might be on pretty tight on there. You don't have to remove the brake pads or anything, but we do need to remove these two bolts. Piece of string and attach it. Also, I'm gonna have to remove this up. You don't have to be crazy about it. Let's get this brake caliper out. It's such a long cable, I can rest it on the ground for now. Left side, there's the speedo cable. You just kind of pull it aside. And after you get the brake calipers out, you're going to just undo this. This is the axle. You might need a breaker bar, and I've already broken it, so it's easy to remove. But we're also going to lube this axle. Put it up a little bit on my jack, and that relieves some of the pressure from it, so I should be able to remove the axle. There we go. And there's the axle. This is a 35-year-old axle, so it potentially could have some spots that you need to work on, but this one seems fine. We're just going to re-grease it. Ready to see if we can get this wheel off, and there we go. When you get the wheel off, even if you're going to be just changing the tire, you should put some grease here, and on the other side, clean it up and put some grease in there. I always like to see if these bearings are in good shape. This is my speed sensor. You should grease it as well. There is some new grease in there. The fender, and you just there's two bolts on each side of the fork. Just slide it down. Remember, it's still got the cable from the caliper. So on top of the fork, there's these plates here, and you can get a flat screwdriver and just kind of pull them off. It's just a clip that makes it look nicer. And now I should be able to put a hex bolt in here, and this is just a brace, and it helps to do it before you remove the fork. So there we go. This is like really high quality steel. I'm so used to plastic parts on Japanese bikes, but this one's like metal everywhere. And if you got into this point and you have forks here, there's a bolt down here that you need to loosen. The problem is it's so tight that you need to have something, otherwise the fork just bends. And it's better to be doing it when the wheel is actually in it. But if you got to this point, just put the axle in here, and that's going to help you remove the tire. So just kind of put it on, and all you have to do is loosen it. Don't remove this bolt. There we go. And it's pretty tight. I've already loosened it, and on the other side, just kind of loosen it a bit. You don't want to loosen it too much, otherwise oil will start to pour out. The bolt here, it's a large one. I think it's a 50. There we go. And just kind of loosen it up. And you don't have to remove it. Loosen this bolt here. So you probably will find the right size. Here we go. This was actually easier to loosen. There we go. Just going to put it back in. So on top of each fork there is a plastic cap. Remove it, and that's also where there's a a shredder valve. There's a shredder valve over here that you can put air. I actually have never used these systems. They're very old. It's the same sort of system. It's a cap. Then I'm going to take a screwdriver, just put it in there, and very little air. This fork is so rusted in the joints that it's very difficult to remove. So what I found is, I'm just going to take the key out just to make sure that I'm put something like this, and then using a soft rubber mallet, you're going to have to hit it down, twist it, and move it down. And here we go. It's really rusty. That is the reason it's not moving down. This 1985 fork is so difficult to remove. This is where the triple tree is, and you can see it's all rusted. So once we remove it, we're going to have to really clean this up, and it's stuck even now, so be very gentle trying to remove it. The soft mallet, screwdriver, just pushing it in. That seems to work fairly well. You might want to consider is tightening this now that we have the fork all the way down, because we have to loosen this bolt to remove the internals of the fork. And I am going to suggest that it's going to be much harder to remove once it's off the fork. So I'm going to tighten this momentarily, loosen this cap. If your fork is having a really big difficulty removing it, you could remove this plate and just use a screwdriver to push away the clamp, the triple clamp, just a little bit, enough to kind of get out. I have my fork down here. I tighten this bolt, and it's enough room I can put my socket and just gently loosen this. And it might take some time. You have to really hang on to the handlebars and make sure that the bike does not fall. Put some oil on the fork to see if I can slide it out easier. Side here, we're going to just push it down, and it'll come down. You just have to be patient with it. Push it down, and there we go. So here is the fork. This is the right one. The lower part of the legs, there is a R over here, and the left one's got an L. Both the forks on the ground. Remember, there is a right and a left. This one is the right. If you look down over here, it says R, and that says L. The left one is the one that's leaking. And you know, this one is a little bit newer for me to work on, or at least I have not worked on one that requires air. So remember, at the very bottom here, there's a bolt that you should loosen in order to it makes it easier, because if you were off the bike, the forks, getting this in, you would need to have some sort of vise here to kind of hold it. So it's a good idea to do it while it's still on the bike.
1/2 teaspoon for fast, effective relief.